With more and more starting pitchers letting us down as the weeks go on, I've got you covered with some great ones to stash and more on today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. If you're watching or listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly to us, if you haven't already, guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. You can find the link to our Subtext wherever you're listening or watching, and if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And I teased it at the top, guys. You know, starting pitching hasn't been what it was even a month ago. Pitchers are starting to get hit around, and our rotations aren't looking as good or as deep as they were. So I have about 4 really good starting pitchers that I think are going to help us in the second half. There is one bat as well, and then we're doing prospects in the second half of this episode. So once again, 5 really good injured players to stash, then 5 really good prospects that we need to keep our eyes on going forward. Let's start with the first one. Let's start with the New York Mets starting pitcher Kodai Senga. And Kodai Senga actually will begin a rehab assignment, High A, Brooklyn, on Wednesday as you are listening to this. He's scheduled to throw about 40 pitches. I mean, we could see him back after the All-Star break, end of July. We all know what Senga did last year, and if you don't remember or you don't know, let me refresh your memory. In Senga's first year over here in the majors with the New York Mets, he started 29 games, had a 2.98 ERA, 12 wins, 166 innings pitched, 202 strikeouts, with a 1.22 whip, and Senga just kept looking better and better as the year went on last year. Had all those pitches working, actually all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them working. That fork ball is supposed to be really, really good. It keeps hitters off balance. The fastball sits at 96. I really like what Senga could do, at 30 years old last year, 31 this year. Comes over a little to the majors a little bit later in his career, but Senga's just a guy that I believe in. Senga's ownership percentage is all the way down to 66. So there's a lot of leagues we can get him in, 44% of leagues. I want to check you guys should check your waiver wires. Honestly, right now, if Senga's available, find the space to make room for him. If not, if he is owned in your league, this is still a good time to buy low on him. I still think you can get Senga 75 cents on the dollar. Maybe if, as I mentioned, if the team that you're trying to grab him from is dealing with some starting pitcher injuries as well, maybe they don't have room for him. I think where there's a will, there's a way. This is a starting pitcher that we can rely on. Senga, as I mentioned, has been good for a long time, even going back to his days in Japan. I think we could just rely on him. That enough said there with Senga. I did tease more starting pitchers, but let's go on to another New York Met. Let's talk a little bit of Starling Marte. Starling Marte kind of fooled me coming into this year. I kind of thought things were over for him, so I wasn't buying in. Shame on me because Starling Marte has been pretty good so far this year through his 66 games. Marte has a 278 batting average, 38 runs, 7 homers, 30 RBIs, and 12 steals. He is at 63% owned. Well, I think that number is going to drop. With Marte, the knee issue, he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. So once again, this is a stash. It's a long play. This is oh, you know what? If somebody dropped him in one of my leagues and, somehow you're not burdened with a bunch of injured players, Marte has power, speed on the Mets team that, isn't great. But you know what? He was, I believe, let me just double check, was hitting, fifth in that lineup. So, had the good opportunities for RBIs and runs, which, he was cashing in on a bit before he got hurt. So, we're not going to talk about Marte too much because he is going to be out a bit. Just wanted to throw the name out there, and I thought it was a good transition to go from Met to Met. Let's go on to another starting pitcher, though, because like I said, I think everyone is starting to look for starting pitchers again. Let's talk some Edward Cabrera of the Miami Marlins. This is a kid who's super impressive. I feel like I talked about him 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he has been pretty good so far in his, rehab assignment. Cabrera is scheduled to make another one. This looks like this upcoming Saturday. He's going to throw 80 to 85 pitches. It might be his last rehab start before joining that Miami rotation, which could use him. It's been a 4.50 ERA for, Edward Cabrera, once again, starting pitcher of Miami Marlins. Has 15 strikeouts over 10 innings with only 4 walks through his first 3 rehab outings. It's been a little bit of a ride for him this year, but he has been good. Had 7 strikeouts and 4 hitless in his last one. So I think it could really be a starting pitcher we can use. And Edward Cabrera is only 12% owned on Yahoo. His first start of the year was 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, gave up 1 earned, had a 1 whip. After that, it was 4 pretty bad starts. Could have been dealing with the injury through that, though. And Edward Cabrera, I really like the stuff. Guy, throws hard. Just want to check everything. This year we're probably not going to get, too much of indicative underlining stuff here, as I look at it. But honestly, they did like it. All the underlying stuff did look pretty good for him. As far as he was getting swings and misses, the hard hit rate wasn't, too bad. They weren't really getting him on that, getting a lot of ground balls. Good pitch mix, was leading with the changeup, has that fastball that averages, over 96. And throws 4 pitches at least 14% of the time. I think Edward Cabrera, at 26 years old, may not break out this year, but somebody I'm keeping my eye on next year, right? I think Edward Cabrera, we're going to be able to get him as maybe our starting pitcher 7 next year, as long as he doesn't go crazy at the end of this year, maybe a starting pitcher 6 going to next season. And I think we could capitalize on that. I think we can, just take advantage where it's due when it comes to a guy like Edward Cabrera. Once again, just a big starting pitcher at 6'5", 217. Really love what he brings to the table. Let's sneak in another one here for you. Let's talk some Jeffrey Springs. And this is a guy we almost talk about on a weekly basis. Honestly, feel like I'm beating a dead horse here with Jeffrey Springs. But you know what? If you are a new listener, if you haven't heard about him, let's talk a little bit about him. Jeffrey Springs was off to a dominant start last year, before he wound up getting Tommy John. And we lost him. But, when he's building back up, Jeffrey Springs pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays, in case you weren't familiar. He allowed 3 earned runs, 5 hits, struck out 5, 3 innings in his last rehab outing in AAA Durham on Friday. He hasn't really been great so far in his, minor league rehab assignment. I don't see him really coming back until maybe once again the end of July, maybe around the time Senga does, maybe a little bit before Senga. And Jeffrey Springs just has to get back to the guy we all know that he can be, and he's a little bit older too. Jeffrey Springs is at 31 right now. I think he can be good. I think he can be a mid-threes ERA guy, over a K per nine, with a solid whip, maybe like a 115, 118 whip for a Jeffrey Springs type. And Springs is only 19% owned. So he's out there in a lot of leagues. I think he's a really good stash. If you actually want to know where we rank these guys, we do that on subtext. If you're saying, hey, Senga, Edward Cabrera, and Jeffrey Springs are all available in my league, which one should I pick up? Check us out on subtext. That's something we answer on there, and we actually give out those rankings, so you don't even have to ask us the question. It will already be answered for you. But I really do love me some Jeffrey Springs. As I mentioned, big strikeout potential. I want to read off actually how good his 2022 was. It was 25 starts, a 2.46 ERA, 9 wins, 135 innings, 144 strikeouts with a 107 whip, and he was just as good the year before out of the bullpen. And like as I mentioned, it were 3 starts in 2023. Was off to a rocking start. Jeffrey Springs was sub 1 ERA, 16 innings, 24 strikeouts, and it was a 0.5 whip. So I mean, you kind of just get the picture there with the upside that Jeffrey Springs brings to the table. And with that being said, coming up next, we're actually going to talk about one of Jeffrey Springs' teammates that has the potential to be just as good as he is in my eyes. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities with hotels, beds, and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball's rival city. And you know what, guys? I'm a New York Yankee fan, in case you didn't know, and I just do have to compliment Camden Yards. What a beautiful, beautiful field. Baltimore, a beautiful, beautiful city, a beautiful place to visit. And you can do that with Booking.com. When they have from hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travels. This MLB season, the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Once again, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com. On the site or on the Booking.com app. Once again, Booking.com, Booking.yeah. And guys, we're talking about our friends at Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals save you up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concert, comedy, and theater near you. Flash deals save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Their zone deals save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. They're all in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Their seat views give you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And their lowest price guarantee is always great because you can use that, or Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference. They also have their Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets and their lowest prices always guaranteed. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on your YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, we're introducing Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this season continues to unfold, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. Where your path to victories begins, subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And guys, that is always a lot, but you know what? We got to keep things pushing around here because we have some more great names for you. And I teased it before, so let's talk about it again. We're going to talk about Jeffrey Springs' teammate here. We are going to talk about Drew Rasmussen. And the thing with Drew Rasmussen is, he is ramping back up. He's not as far as things as Jeffrey Springs is. He's going to be throwing soon. I believe it was Kevin Cash was talking about how he's working his way back, and will be an option for them probably late July, early August. And Rasmussen is somebody who, if somehow, Jeffrey Springs and everybody else we spoke about today is gone in your leagues, Rasmussen just might be out there. Rasmussen is actually, I believe, 3% owned on Yahoo. So as I mentioned, widely available. And, he almost threw a no-hitter. I don't think it was last year. I think it was, 2 years ago. He's just very, very good, and he has great stuff. Tampa Bay really knows how to get the most out of their starting pitchers. So I do believe in him, and I just kind of want to read you off of some of Rasmussen's numbers. And he's still only 28, by the way. Rasmussen's still only 28 years old, so this is a guy still right in the prime of his career. Another guy unfortunately went down, had to get the surgery last year. But in 2022, Drew Rasmussen had 28 starts, 2.84 ERA, 146 innings, 125 strikeouts, and a 104 whip. And then last year, before Rasmussen went down, it was 8 starts, 2.62 ERA, 44 innings, 47 strikeouts, 105 whip. This is a guy, has some strikeout upside. I don't know if he's ever going to live up to the upside, but really knows how to suppress runs, limit walks, limit hits. The control is very good for Rasmussen. At 3% owned, we need to get that up a lot higher than it currently is. I really, really do believe in Drew Rasmussen. So once again, guys, that's some really, really good names to consider. I'll run through them again just in case we forgot. We got Kodai Senga, starting pitcher of the New York Mets. One quick bat with Starling Marte of the New York Mets as well. Edward Cabrera, starting pitcher of Miami Marlins. Jeffrey Springs, starting pitching Tampa Bay Rays, and Drew Rasmussen, another starting pitcher from the Tampa Bay Rays. That is the injured players to stash portion of this episode. We are going to move into the prospects portions of this episode. Let's talk some Jackson Jobe. And I think the opportunity is there for us to see Jackson Jobe. I don't know if Detroit's going to do it, but it looks like Casey Mize is going to hit the IL. Does that mean we're going to see Jackson Jobe, the starting pitching prospect from the Detroit Tigers, the number 8 pitching prospect overall in the MLB, according to MLB.com? And if you guys can't tell, I'm already super, super excited just to talk about him again. 6'2", 190, righty. Once again, Jackson Jobe, starting pitching prospect from the Detroit Tigers. It's just so good, man. That fastball has 18 inches of vertical break, tops out around 97. His slider is filthy. That one tops around about 85, has a lot of movement, mixes in a cutter as well, and sits around 88 to 92. 2. This kid's going to be really good. He's going to be really good in the bigs. I'll read you off his numbers this year in the minors. Once again, Jackson Jobe. Across 2 levels, a single A and double A this year. 8 starts for Jobe, 2.10 ERA, 25 innings, 32 strikeouts, 12 walks. Batters are hitting 125 against him, and that's good for an 0.9 whip for the young Jackson Jobe. He's a stash. He's a really stash. And like I said, I don't know if Detroit wants to go out there and do this right now. But Jobe already more owned than Drew Rasmussen at 7% owned on Yahoo. I kind of just, let's deep dive this together, guys. Let's see where Detroit really can go if they want, because I know they faced a lot of starting pitching injuries this year. I kind of just want to see, okay, so I guess they kind of made the move already. Kiter Montero is going to start on the 3rd of July, so we're not going to see Jackson Jobe right away, but how many more injuries can this rotation take, especially with Mize going out? Schoolball's been good. Flaherty's been good. Olson's been good. Maeda, I really think we could just be, one Kenta Maeda injury away before, Detroit says, hey, let's throw it in. Let's see what we have with Jackson Jobe. I think this is a guy that when Jobe does get called up, it's a pause the podcast moment or, hey, stop what you're doing type of moment when you get the notification, especially if you join us in the Diamond Club. You'll get that notification texted right to your phone when Jackson Jobe gets the call, and you're not going to want to miss that one out. So, once again, give us a chance on Diamond Club and give Jackson Jobe a chance as well. Let's keep things pushing. Let's move on to this next prospect. Let's talk about Marcelo Meyer of the Boston Red Sox. I don't know how much we've talked about him on this podcast, if at all, to be honest with you. But a name that we definitely should be aware of, right? Shortstop prospect, Boston Red Sox, 6'3", 188, has plus power, plus hit tool, good defense. Former number 1 overall pick. Number 4 overall pick in the 2021 draft. He's really, had a bit of a mixed bag in the minors, but has turned around this year big time. 307 batting average through 68 games for Meyer this year in the minors at Double A. 54 runs, 7 homers, 36 RBIs. He has 27 walks to 57 strikeouts and 13 steals. I'm not sure if Meyer is somebody we see this year, especially with Boston, kind of being at where they are. I don't know if they want to, force things there with the, young Meyer. They have a bunch of their young guys up already. They got Rafaela there. They got William Abreu. David Hamilton has been playing good. Jaron Duran's been all-star caliber. So, we might not see Meyer this year, but if we do, somebody I definitely want to give a chance on our fantasy teams. This part of the episode, whenever we do, start talking about these prospects, it might not always be a this year play or right now play, but you want to be familiar with these names. And if you're playing fantasy baseball, I'm sure you're going to want to continue to play because it's such a fun game. So when you do hear these names going on in the future, whether it's this year in September and you're saying, hey, I remember Dom talking about Marcelo Meyer on, Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. And, he was telling me that I should give him a chance if he gets the call. And you're not weary about it. I know that's been one of my biggest things in fantasy baseball over the years is that I've missed out on a lot of great call-ups. Kyle Schwarber, when he got called up back in the day, and that was a big one for me. Just wasn't super familiar with the name. So I said, I'm not super familiar with the name. I'm not going to pick him up. Even Mike Trout was another guy that I wasn't super familiar with the name when he got called up. So I didn't pick him up. I picked up, Bryce Harper like about a week earlier, but wasn't super familiar with Trout at the time. So I'm just trying to get these names in your head. So when you see, once again, Marcelo Meyer got the call, you remember, Dom was talking about him and he was hitting over 300 in the minors with a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. In that Boston lineup, somebody we're keeping our eye on, Marcelo Meyer. Let's keep things pushing here, actually, before we do, and we talk about a couple other great prospects, and coming up next as well is a son of a former amazing player, all-star player. We're going to talk to you in a second. And guys, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on Prize Picks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. Prize Picks is incredibly user-friendly, and you can make selections and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, here are some rock-solid picks for you. You should opt for Bryce to rank to have higher than 0.5 stolen bases in his next game. Or you can opt for Pete Alonso to have 0.5 higher than 0.5 higher than 0.5 home runs in his next outing. And lastly, you can opt for Josh Lowe to have higher than 0.5 total bases in his next start. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, folks, and we're gonna bring this thing home with a few more prospects. And you know what? Let's just go right to it. Let this one's a fun one for me. Let's talk some Drew Jones. Now, Drew Jones by no means is somebody we are going to see this year. He was drafted with Jackson Holiday, and if you don't know who Drew Jones is, as Jackson Holiday, Drew Jones is also the son of a former All-Star MLB player Andrew Jones. Don't have the same dad, but they're both of their dads were All-Stars. You know, Matt Holiday for Jackson Holiday and Andrew Jones for Drew Jones. Drew Jones is somebody who has dealt with a lot so far. A lot of injuries, a lot of turmoil. Hasn't really lived up to the hype, but this kid is going to be really good. Mark my words. At 6'4", 200 pounds, 20 years old, I think the sky's the limit for Drew Jones. I think he's going to fill out this frame. You know, I think he's going to be a big guy like his dad. I think he's going to be like when everything's said and done, you're going to see like a 6'4", 215 frame on this kid. And right now, Drew Jones is finally starting to hit in the minors. 63 games this year in the minors, 228 at-bats. We got 40 runs, 12 doubles, 3 triples, 4 homers, 36 RBIs, 7 steals, 42 walks to 81 strikeouts, and a 263 batting average. Once again, Drew Jones is doing all of this in single A right now. Like I said, we're not going to see him this year. But this is a guy in your keepers, your dynasties, where you're keeping a lot of players. I think you can go out and buy on him at the moment. I think you could pay 75 cents on the dollar of what this guy was worth, a year ago, 2 years ago. Second overall pick. Drew Jones was just, he is that guy. He's going to be that good. I'm a big, big believer in him. So Drew Jones, I think, like I said, remember the name, remember the pedigree, remember how good his dad was. If you don't know who Andrew Jones is, go look him up. He was an absolutely phenomenal, not only hitter but fielder as well. And I think Drew Jones is going to follow in his dad's footsteps. And let's not give up on Jackson Holiday either. Jackson Holiday is going to be very, very good as well. Let's move on to somebody who's a little bit more interesting. Let's talk some Jacob Wilson, prospect from the Oakland Athletics. Somebody that I wasn't super familiar with, but I was doing some research, and this guy just really stuck out to me. He's the 51st prospect, according to MLB.com. Jacob Wilson, shortstop, for Oakland Athletics, hitting .463 over 38 games this year, 35 runs, 21 doubles, 5 homers, 29 RBIs, 9 walks, 13 strikeouts, 2 steals. Jacob Wilson is supposed to have a 70 grade hit tool, kind of Steven Kwanish almost here, with a 50 run grade, which is average. Defense is supposed to be plus, and as far as his his arm is as well. It looks like he's just always hit for average, wherever he's been, whether it was Team USA, the minors, college. Jacob Wilson, just somebody keep your eye on. Oakland gives this guy the call. I'm giving him a shot because sometimes batting average translates really, really well, especially when it comes to just guys like it seems like Jacob Wilson does, who could just keep their eye on the ball, swing through, nice line drives. Not everything has to be over the fence. Seems like he's not really quick with like I said, the 50 run grade, but that means to me that he can, move along the base paths with 2 steals through 38 games this year and 4 steals through 26 last year for Jacob Wilson. I like it. I like him. Definitely give him a shot if we hear him get the call. I'm going to give him a little add on the end of my bench in those 12, 15-man leagues, especially those, middle infielder leagues where, you can slot Jacob Wilson in as your shortstop there. Let's move on to this last guy before we head out, and we have a brother. I love the brothers, the dads. They're just lots of fun to talk about. Let's talk about Jason Chourio. Jackson Churrio's little brother. Jackson Churrio's finally starting to catch his groove here, so I thought it'd be a fun time to talk about his little brother, who does play for those Cleveland Guardians in the minors. Jason Chourio is only 19. He's 6'1", 162, kind of small frame, like his brother. 60 grade hit tool, 55 grade run tool, plays pretty good defense. When it runs in the bloodline like this, look at Ronald Acuna's little brother, Luis Angel Acuna. I think he's going to, get to the bigs soon and going to be pretty good. Jason, I think the batting average is going to be good for him. I think he might grow into a little bit more power like his brother has. And, the speed is going to be something that's very good in the minors this year. I don't think I read you off the stats for Jason Chourio. If I did, we're going to do it one more time. 270 batting average in this year at single A for Jason. 64 games. He has 47 runs. He has 19 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 47 RBIs, 50 walks to 45 strikeouts. I love the plate discipline, and 24 steals for Jason Chourio. So with that being said, guys, Jason Chourio, definitely keep your eye on him if he does get the call this year. I definitely somebody that's going to be fun, and I want to add in those, keeper dynasties. Somebody that might not be owned, or somebody that, you might be able to get for dirt cheap in those really competitive leagues where you're keeping every single player on your roster. But that being said, guys, that is all for today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. But guys, until next time, see ya.